everyone, it's Tina from Tina's Crafty Crochet, and here's the bag I did in the last video. And I've attached one handle so you can see how it looks, and I did mine kind of chunky. Let me fold this so you can see it. And this is done in 3 different parts. You have the actual handle, and then the handle wrap, and then the attachment pieces. And we are going to start with the actual handle, and I'm going to gather my supplies and I'll be right back. Okay, and this is what I'm going to be using today. I'm going to be using the same spring green in the Red Heart Super Saver. It's a worsted weight 4, and you're going to need a crochet hook. I'm still using my H 5mm and a pair of scissors or snips and a yarn needle with a big eye on it. Okay, I'm going to move my scissors and my needle back off camera. And to work the handle for my bag in particular, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can either, crochet in a continuous round until it's the length that you want, but I'm going to crochet a rectangle, and then I'm going to slip stitch it together to form a tube. So I made my slip knot, insert my hook, and I'm going to do the foundation single crochet, and I will start by chaining 2, and then I'm going to go into this back hump of the first chain I made, if I can see it around the camera. Okay, get it in there. I got that one just a little tight. And then I'm going to pull up a loop and chain 1, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And I am going to do 80 stitches. So that's 1. That is 2. And I do have a video for the foundation single crochet, so if you need to stop this one and get a refresher, you can do that, and I will be back when I have my 80 stitches. Okay, I have finished my 80 foundation single crochets, and what I'm going to do is I am going to chain 1, turn my work, and I'm going to single crochet into each of those 80 stitches all the way across, and I'm going to do a total of 5 rows. So this is row 1, and I'm starting on row 2, and we just work it up until we have 5 rows, and then I'll come back and show you how to join them into a tube. Okay, I have got my 5 rows done, and it is a long rectangle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and then I'm going to fold these together with my hook on the inside towards me. And then I'm going to go in through this first stitch, and then I'm going to pick up this first stitch on the other side underneath, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through and pull through, and that is a slip stitch. And I'm going to do this all the way down through both thicknesses, get through both of those, and come all the way through and back. Now don't cut your yarn. I mean, you can sew this up, but I just find it easier to slip stitch it than I do to sew it. It's easier to on my hands and my eyes to work with my hook than it is a needle. And we've got plenty of sewing to do with tails and whatnot in a little bit. So slip stitch down to the end, and I'll be back and we will finish off this handle. Okay, we're to the end, and I'm going to put in my last slip stitch. And then I'm going to cut a length of yarn. Let's say about right there. And I'm going to yarn over and pull that length through. And now I'm going to thread my needle with the yarn that's still attached. And we're going to make sure it's not twisted. And I'm going to put it together like this, and then I'm going to go inside the hole and then only through this first layer and sew this side together like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck this tail right down in there because I don't feel like sewing it in, and it's in a knot. And if it's down in there, it can't come loose. Okay, so now we stand these up, and I am going to go through one side right here, and then out this other side. And I'm going to finish going around the side just like that. And it's okay if you can see this because our handle cover is going to cover where we attached. So this doesn't have to be like super pretty or whatever, but it does need to be secure so it's stuck together. So I'm going to weave in this end. I'm just going to do, oh, I'm almost out here. Just going to weave it in just a little bit and then go back in the opposite direction. And normally I do it 3 times because yarn can't unravel 3 different directions at the same time. And there we go. And we're going to snip this, toss that to the side. And this is our handle. And what we're going to do is our handle is going to be in a horseshoe half moon shape like this. And the next part we're going to work on is the handle grip around here. And for that, I'm going to do a foundation half double crochet. So I'm going to make my slip knot and insert my hook. And I'm going to do 10 half double foundation stitches. So we are going to chain 2, yarn over, go into the back loop of that first one, yarn over, pull up a loop, chain 1, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that is 1. And we're going to do 10 of these. So we're going to go through both loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, chain 1, yarn over, pull through all 3. And I do have a video for the foundation half double. So I'm going to keep on going with this. And I'm doing this slightly different. Instead of, crocheting the length, I'm only crocheting the width right now. So there's fewer stitches. You can do the handle that way as well. If you only wanted to do 5 stitches and do it 80 rows long, you can do it that way. So we have 2, 4, 6. We're almost there. But I did it this way because I want the different textures of the different stitches. Just like in the bag, I want them to be represented in the handle as well. Okay, so now we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 1 more. That's what I thought. Okay, now we have that done, we're going to chain 1 and turn. Yarn over and half double crochet in each of the 10 stitches across. And we're going to do 6 rows. This is row 2. So you get your rows completed and we'll come back and I'll show you how to fasten it onto the handle. Okay, I have done my 6 rows and this is my handle, and I make sure my seam is in the center. And instead of sewing it on like this, we're going to take and leave our yarn connected, and we're going to wrap this around like this. Now you can put the seam anywhere you'd like. I usually like to put it kind of down at the bottom, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and go through that first stitch in the sides of the rows and slip stitch. Let's see if we can get that in there. Now we're not sewing this to the handle itself, so it will move around and is adjustable in case you don't get it centered or whatnot. But I just want you to go through the end rows and slip stitch. And you may want to put a couple extra in there. If, you know, as long as you're consistent with it, you know, you can pretty much get away with anything when you're crocheting. Even if you do a stitch incorrectly, as long as you're consistent, you know, it'll work out fine. So, now what we're going to do is we're going to cut our tail. And we have the other tail there as well. We're going to yarn over and pull it through. And then we're going to take and put our needle, thread our needle with the tail. And right here on the seam, I'm going to go back in and weave it in and out. And then I'm going to go in a different area and weave in and out. And then one more time. And then I'm going to cut this one so I don't get confused. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to take the small one from where we started, our beginning chain, and I'm going to run it in and out on this one as well. And this one's really not long enough to do 3, so I will just be able to do it 2 ways. Get it through there, and then I'm going to cut that off as well. And I'm going to stretch this back out so the tails stay hidden. And this is our handle so far. Now we are going to make these little attachment loops, or whatever you want to call them. And we'll make 2. And I already have one made up. And this is what it looks like before you put it on the bag or the handle. And what it'll do is it'll fold over the handle inside, and then we'll sew the points through the bag itself. And it'll go through 3 different layers when you're sewing it. But I kind of just made this pattern up. So what I did is, again, I start with a slip knot, and I am going to use both the half double, the double, and the single crochet all in this. So we're going to chain 2, and then I'm going to yarn over and put 3 half double crochets into this first back hump. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to do an increase in the first and the last stitch. So I'm going to yarn over and put 2 half double crochets into this first stitch. So that's 1, 2, and then we're going to do 1 in this middle stitch, if I can get it to focus so you can see, in this middle stitch right here. Alright, so that makes 3 stitches, and then we're going to put 2 in this one, and then that will be number 4 and 5. So we went from 1, 3, 5. Now 5 is as wide as I want this, because I don't want it too wide because it's not a big bag. So now what I'm going to do is chain 2, turn my work, and I'm going to put 1 double crochet into each stitch across. So that's 5 double crochets. Alright, now I need a total of 4 rows of double crochets. So this is row 1, and this will be row 2. And now we're on to 3. It'd help if I quit hitting the camera with my hand. Okay, so that is 1, 2, 3 rows. So let's do one more. And then we'll start our decreasing. And it's just going to be the opposite of what our beginning was. Okay. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we are going to decrease in the first 2 and the last 2 stitches. So we're going to yarn over, go through our stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. And since we're doing half doubles, we're going to yarn over, go through our stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. And now we have 5 loops on our hook, and we are going to yarn over and pull through all 5, and that is a half double decrease. So that takes it down to 1, 2, and we're going to decrease in the last 2 here. So yarn over, go through, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through all 5 loops. And then we're going to chain 1, and we are going to half double crochet 3 stitches together, so we can come back down to our single point. So yarn over, and you go in the first one, pull up a loop, yarn over, go into the second stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go into the third stitch and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and go through all of them at once. And now I'm going to chain one and I'm going to turn. And now I want to put a nice finished edge on it because, you know, it is on the outside of the purse or bag. So I'm just going to single crochet in the end of every round. Now the half doubles, we'll only put one in. You just stick your hook in there, and in the double crochet we're going to put 2 single crochets in. So these 4 center rows will have 2 single crochets in the edge. And now we're back down to the half doubles, so we'll just put 1 in those. And now at the end here, since I do want it to round around, I'm going to take and put 3 single crochets into this spot right here. 2 and 3. And then I'm going to take my tail from where I started, and I'm just going to single crochet around that and just cover it up as I go around. Just lay it on top of those stitches and just crochet over it. And that saves me from having to sew that tail in. And the reason I'm doing it here is because I am sewing this onto the bag itself, and that's a lot of sewing, so because we want to make sure it's nice and secure. Okay, so we're back here to the end, and we need to put 3 single crochets in the end, just like we did at the opposite end. 2 and 3. And now we're going to slip stitch into our first single crochet. Now I'm going to go ahead and just pull this tail a little bit and clip it off and straighten that out some. Now normally I would just have you cut your yarn, pull through, but I want to do a different ending so it doesn't have a knot in it. So I'm going to go in through the back side of the next single crochet. This is the one my yarn's coming through, and I want to go in through the back of this one, and I want to slip my loop over the hook just like this, and then I want to pull it from the front to the back. And now I'm going to cut this and pull it through, and there's no knot, and now I can sew in this tail. And for some reason this spring green likes to fray a lot, so I have to put a little spit on it to get it to go through the needle. So we're going to start here, and we're going to go weaving it in an inch or two, and then we're going to go back in through a different spot and go back the way we came, and we're going to go through one more time just to make sure we got it good and secure. And we're going to cut our tail. Okay, so now we have both of our little tab things, and we're going to cut a length, I don't know, a foot or so of matching yarn. Now you can mix this up and make the handle a different color than the handle cover or the tabs, or multicolored bag. You know, creativity, it is all on you, and you can make it any way you want. You can add flowers, whatnot. So now I'm going to pull my bag over here and lay my stuff on top of it. I want to line up with the front. You got that a little tight. Better do it that way. Alright. Now these are even with the ones on the other side of the bag. And what I'm going to do is just fold this through. And hold my hand like this. I'm going to place it in. And now you can pin this, but I prefer, you know, just to hold it. And I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go in through the back, through all 3 layers, and out the front near the single crochet edge. That's where I want my stitches to fall on the front. Now I'm going to leave a length in the back, and I'm just going to go over a few pieces of yarn and come out the back. And then I'm going to just take and go all the way up. Oops, got it hung. All the way up to the edge of the bag. Come back in right here. And then I'm just going to take it and go across. And make sure you go through all 3 pieces. Excuse me, the front of the tab, the back of the tab, and the back. And work your way across. And then go right there by that single crochet edge again. And then I'm going to flip it around so I can hold it in my hand a little better. And maybe you can see it a little better. Just come right up there by that edge and sew that in. Just like that. Going in between, over, through stitches. And just making sure you get it through all 3 layers and get it secure. And there we go. So now what I generally do is I take and I tie a little knot in my working yarn and my starting tail. So I always like to start back where I was, and I do 2 knots, and then I will take and weave this end in a little bit. You know, do it in the 3 directions again. And that should do it right there. And now I'm going to trim this off. Oops. Now, if you don't have an extra needle, you can just wait till you're done and then sew in this end, which is what I'm going to do. I do have an extra needle, but I'm going to go ahead and get this other one back on. I just snagged my bag. There we go. So, I'm going to lay this back up here and make sure I have it in the right place. Let's wrap this around. And place it on there. And grab my yarn. I'm going to insert my hook from the back, which is the inside of the bag, leaving a tail, and then back through all 3 pieces. Get it good and locked in, and then go all the way up to the edge, and then we're going to go across. And I'm going to take it back in like this, and I'm going to flip it because it's just easier on my hands working it like this. And right here by the single crochet edge, if I can get it to focus, there we go. Got it hung on the handle, and then back down through, and then back up, and I'm going through all 3 pieces, and then we're going back down and into the back, and I'm going to tie a couple of knots here and go ahead and weave this tail in just all the way through that. We got it in one direction, and now we're going in another, and then back one more time. Let's pull that tail out and give it a clip, and then I'll go back and I'll sew these last 2 in. And this is the bag with my chunky handles. I hope you like this. And if you have any other suggestions or any other techniques you want to see, just, leave a comment or hit us up on Facebook. And I hope you have happy hooking.